How are things with you?
Good. I'm busy.
You
I
you
was,
look you look younger.
uh, well, there's a few contributing factors. One of them is I kind of let my hair grow back out again. So,
Yeah.
so it's longer, which reminds people of what I used to look like, when I was younger. And my wife made me shave off my sideburns. So she goes,
Okay.
Elvis, you got to lose the sideburns, Elvis. I go, okay.
So, well, first off, Mr. Rik Emmett, congrats on the book. Let's see. There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, I have it here too. There it is.
Tell
Look,
me
there's four
about.
of them now on ECW Press. Look.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. You are uh catching up with your musical prowess with writing now.
Well, I have always felt like being prolific was part of the way of fulfilling the gift, and
Hmm.
the creative gift is one that pushes me in, different directions. Um, but yeah, and in fact, we're sitting here talking, and there's another book of poetry that's ready to go, sitting in this laptop. You know,
Wow.
yeah. Well, it's not a huge thing. It's not like I wake up in the morning and these things just, you have to work to make them happen. But I'm
Yeah.
not afraid of that kind of work. I like it. I embrace process. Like we're, planning to go out on this tour, and there's going to have to be a lot of rehearsing, and there's been a lot of practicing on these guitars. And
Yeah.
I like the work. It gives me a sense of purpose. I feel fulfilled when I'm in process. So, but it's not like I'm solving the world hunger.
Fair.
Well,
Fair.
you know, I haven't come up with uh, fossilless fuel. You know,
No, okay. I like how you're putting everything in perspective.
yeah. Well, isn't that my job as a poet? It's my
That's right. That's right.
objective.
There's a few poems I've come across in this recent book. But tell me about the cover art. I don't know whether you did that, but you at least commissioned it and sort of signed off on it. Tell me about the cover art.
I did the first sketches, and the first sketches would look remarkably similar to this execution. I'm not a good enough artist that I could execute on that level.
Yeah.
So uh, when you have, part of the reason you go to a publisher is because they do have access to people that are real pros at it, and they'll come back to you and say, "What do you think of this?" And I go, "Yeah, can we make it look more stormy? Can we?" But then sometimes they'll give you a thing where you go, I didn't imagine it was that stormy. I really like that. Like
Okay.
in this particular execution, like
Yeah.
I never had an idea for all of that foam, that spray. I had the
Yes.
idea of the wind and the jester. Like this is Alvaro Fallas. He's a character, an alter ego that's in the poetry. So
Yeah.
I had this idea, but the execution of it becomes something that you're hoping that somebody else will do it better than you, and they did. So it's great. Um,
It's yeah, I like it.
yeah, but that's an alter ego. Me leaning into, and I think I probably just left the sh off the front of the word because I think that's the kind of world we're living in right now. Politicians and the digital universe. I think we're kind of under attack in a
Hmm.
lot of ways. But we're always kind of under attack because Mother Nature is always, slowly but surely grinding us back into the stardust that we started out from.
Yeah.
That's the way life works. So,
Yeah.
my sort of, it's a little bit darker, I think, now that I'm getting older, my approach to things, but I still want to arrive at positivity and optimism. And so it's like, okay, well, you got to lean into it, like it's our job now to be a little more arduous, a little bit more show a little bit more spine. That's what we got to do.
Yeah.
So the writing of the poetry was that for me, and that's a nice picture that sort of captures that.
Yeah. I mean, there's one thing. I understand you wrote this during COVID.
Yeah.
And so there's one thing about leaning into Mother Nature, right? You've got your alter ego, leaning into the storm, at the abyss, or on a cliff. Um, and but then in your at the beginning, you dedicate this to your family, and at the end it says, um, to those who keep leaning into a good fight for virtue, using poetry, music, believing in its imperatives in the war against ugly power mongers who fight dirty. And this doesn't sound like you're talking to or referencing Mother Nature there.
No.
It seems like you're talking about, the billionaires, the politicians, those who have built these digital tools that so many are addicted to. Um,
Yeah, but I mean, I want to make sure that I'm clear about that.
yeah,
I'm probably as you know, uh, my feelings are as mixed as the next guy,
fair
which is
enough.
to
Yeah,
say, I mean, we're sitting here, we wouldn't be talking if there wasn't technology to make this happen. And
yeah,
as people can't see this, but oh, you've got AI happening in the background here, and you got a note to thing that's happening. Like,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I use it too when I'm writing. When I'm recording, I'm going to go out on tour with Triumph, and is it not going to be a digital extravaganza? It certainly is. The coordinating of video with lights, with the musicians that are playing live. Look, Godin made me this beautiful new guitar, and this wouldn't exist if there weren't CNC machines. And this is a rich light board. It's not even wood anymore, but I love this fingerboard. It's technology. They use a
yeah.
plect machine to be able to put these frets in a way that, when I was a kid and I was first getting guitars, they weren't anywhere near as good. So there's lots and
Wow,
lots of stuff that technology does it's a part of our lives now, and it's a
fair
great part
enough.
of our lives. It enhances our lives. It makes our lives easier, sure. But there's a dark side. There's a price that we pay for everything, and
Yeah.
I'm concerned about what the digital universe is doing to our humanity. I mean, I'm a musician, I'm a poet. I I plant my flag in a world of creativity. And
Mm,
I think that it's not a good thing when a generation of kids are growing up and feeling like they don't want to procreate. You know,
yeah, yeah,
birth rates are declining.
yeah.
What does that mean about what we have a horrible execution of the systems that exist in our modern life. And I mean political systems, medical systems, educational systems. You know, there's like the justice system is terrible. It's
Mm,
horrible. There's no justice in the justice system.
mm.
So AI doesn't seem to be solving a lot of really fundamental kinds of big
Yes,
problems,
fair enough.
And what am I going to do? I write poetry. It may be
That's your fate.
the least effective thing that could possibly happen for a human being. The writing. It's like making jazz guitar records. People go, jazz? I'm not interested in jazz. And of course, poetry. They go, poetry. Like I did an interview with a guy, and you can appreciate this. Sometimes I'm talking to people, they're really from the rock and roll world. They're not from the
Yeah,
literary world. They're not, So yeah, the publicist sets it up, and I'm talking to somebody about purportedly I'm talking about my poetry book, but no. They'll go, well, yeah, I read your book. I didn't really get any of it. Like it doesn't speak to me. And I go, okay, and I get it. I understand that. But what else am I going to do? This is what I do.
that's
So
yeah.
but yes, I have frustrations on many levels with what's happening in the current world. And power mongering, I consider that to be maybe the worst disease of all.
Mm,
That's the snake in the Garden of Eden. That's the, asking you to bite the apple.
yeah.
Like, in terms of stories and metaphors and how the world works, that it boils down to me as it's evil. It's people that want power so that they can use it for their own power mongering. Like, I want
Mm,
more. I want
yeah.
more power. I want more money. I want more prestige. I want more. And I go, what about humility? Like,
Mm,
where is that in your equation? Because
yeah.
that's as critical to the human, the way we interact with each other. Our humanity is dependent upon our vanity, our modesty and our humility, not our vanity. Vanity is a
Mm,
it's a bad thing. And of course, the president of the United States is one of the worst, vain, horrible people. And then a majority of people vote for him. How is that?
crazy.
How is that even possible that that could be happening? So yes, those are the kinds of things that I'm railing against and going
Yes.
like, you can't be serious. This can't be the way it's going to work out. This is so.
Yeah, yeah. I listen, I agree with you, Rick, but it's also, interesting that coming from still, former current still, rock star that is going to be going on tour and having thousands of people adoring you and the music that you're going to be playing. But I wanted to ask you, Rick, about you've written a couple of poems, at least that I recognize, that you're talking about um your physical limitations, your health, and recognizing where you are. And at the same time, you are going out on tour. You are going to be playing these songs that became popular in the 70s and 80s. Tell me about where you're at now. You're doing rehearsals. How are you how are you doing? How are you feeling compared to what you've been writing about?
I'm doing pretty good. You know, uh,
All right.
and I think part of it is there's a whole bunch of psychology that's involved in this kind of a thing, right?
Okay.
But when I sat down with my wife and when this whole thing of, hey, you want to reform the band and take it out on the road, and when it got pitched to me, they they appeal to my vanity and they go, we can't do this without you, man. You're the lifeblood of this. We got to have you. And I go, well, let me think about it. And I sit down with my wife and I go, pros and cons. I'm not
Yeah.
sure that I'll survive. She goes,
Okay.
well, you know, uh, let's just do the pros first because that
Yeah.
that'll be fun. So what do you got at the top of your list? I go, well, I think I'd have to get myself back in shape. I think I'd have to be working out and watching my diet and
Okay.
I'm going to have to really go after this, get a personal trainer and really go for this. And she said, well, I don't think we need to talk about this anymore. I think that's a good enough reason in and of itself. You should do it. And at Christmas,
Wow.
she bought me like private personal trainer guy, 10 things with the guy. And I've kept it up and I've lost 12 pounds. And, I'm pushing more weight on the sled and I'm pulling more weight down and I'm feeling stronger. And I have issues because I'm human. And so
Yeah.
I'm slowly but surely decaying. And,
Yeah.
one of these days I am going to die. That's inevitable. So, but I think that, I feel like the arthritis issues that I have, they're manageable. And the more that I work out and the more that I practice and play my guitar, the
Okay.
better I'm coping with it. It's not going to make it go away. But the management team we have, Vector Management, Jason Murray is our guy, and they handle Peter Frampton's career. And Frampton had a thing that happened where he got this condition that he wasn't going to get any better. It was going to slowly but surely erode.
Hmm.
In the end, you die of something else,
Yeah.
but you have this condition. So, um, if the arthritis that I have is the worst thing that I have to cope with over the rest of my life, I go, okay, and I think having purpose,
Mm.
going out on the road, like writing poetry,
Yeah.
creative purpose gives me a focus that allows me to fight. So,
Mm.
the cover of the book, the it, leaving off the sh, leaving, like, I think it's also I'm leaning into the idea of going out on tour again. So the wind is the tour. Okay, riding on the bus, having to do interviews, like
Yeah.
all of the things that I thought I'd retired from. No, no, I'm going to lean into them now. Like that's,
Yeah.
and I think there's something healthy about that, at least here in this initial stage. Like, ask me in another month, and I may have a different feeling. Ask me in 3 months, and I might be going, "Oh, what did they do?"
Ooh.
But I'm kind of looking forward and thinking, okay, if I can just get through to June, I'll reassess. And I think that's
Okay.
part of how life works too. Don't look so far ahead that you're starting to take on fear of the future.
Mm.
That's no good. That now you're going way too far. The way to lean into it is to be in that moment and plant your feet and set yourself and handle whatever it is in that moment and just get through that moment. And if you do, then another moment will come along and hey, maybe the wind will die down. Who knows what the tide will bring in, as I wrote in one of the
Yeah.
poems. So, and there's lots and lots of good things that are going to happen uh,
For sure.
as a result of going out on this tour. And I know I'm going to make a lot of people happy. And that's
Yeah.
a nice thing. So, uh, I think in the final analysis, uh, if it doesn't kill me, it'll make me stronger. How's that
It'll
for a
make
cliche?
There you go. Rick, are you planning? I'm going to guess that there'll be some writing on this tour. I don't know if you're planning to, or if there is already a new Triumph album in the works, or if there'll be writing in terms of, you know, life back out on the road again, or something like that. Have you thought of writing something?
I have not, except I always think about writing because
Okay.
I'm always writing. So,
Yeah.
and I have lots of songs that I have in the can that I could turn into recordings at some point in time. Could they be Triumph songs? They might. Who knows?
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm not really in any big hurry. It's an interesting world we live in where there's a lot of sort of commercial industry that's attaching itself to songs that are 50 years old here. This
Yes.
Triumph
Yeah.
thing is about nostalgia and the past and bringing the past into the present. And um, when Rogers is deciding what songs they want to use in the Stanley Cup playoffs, they're not looking for new songs of them. They want to use stuff that speaks across generations because that's
Yeah.
how that business model works. So you go, okay, I get that. So why would I be that worried about, new songs? I'm not that worried about them now either.
Okay.
However, we live in a digital world. And so do you not think that there are going to be people out on that tour with cameras and shooting
Oh yeah.
everything that happens all the time, and that there won't be some sort of documentary that rises out of the fact that we're out there? Do you not think there won't be live recordings digitally made at the board every night that then can be blown apart into Pro Tools, and now you can do an infinite amount of things with those tracks if you want. Yes,
Yeah.
of course, there will be an exploitation of content, you
Yeah.
know, but that's really not my. I don't really care. Like
Yeah.
that shit goes on peripherally
Yeah.
and around me, but my job is to sort of try to stay in the eye of the hurricane and
Yeah.
just uh the hurricane's going to move. I got to make sure that I move with it, and I got to stay in the eye of it, But I think um, it'll be fine.
You're right.
If at a certain point somebody might say, "Hey, do you want to go in the studio and make a record?" I will say, "Why don't we go in the studio and make one song and see how that works?" Which is the way I approached this tour. I said, "Why don't we just go out for, a couple of months, just see how
Yeah.
that works?"
Yeah.
Like the Rush guys are out, and it looks like they're going to go out for
Oh my God.
a year now, or a year and a half or something. And I'm going, wait, don't you want to wait and see how your 70-year-old body reacts?
Yeah, that is so true. That is so true. Um, Rick, I think this is a good time if you don't mind, you know, taking a peek back. I'd love to chat with you about the Gasworks.
Sure.
For those of a certain vintage, popular place to see up and coming bands in Toronto. It doesn't exist anymore. The Gasworks will be part of a project that we're working on here called Lost Venues. But Rick, I'm wondering if you tell me about your memories of playing in the Gasworks.
Well, first of all, I can tell you that my first memories of it would have been going there as a
Okay.
teenager to see bands. And
Okay.
the first place I ever saw Rush was in the Gasworks.
Yeah.
And John Rutsey was the drummer, and Geddy had black fingernails. And Alex was playing like a Sunburst 335. And I thought they were a really good band, like a really interesting band. And then, a few years later, Triumph was playing there, and Alex Lifeson came to see Triumph at the Gasworks, and we stood at the bar and had a beer together. And yeah, and I remember being sort of like honored that Alex Lifeson would, take the time to come and
Yeah.
see our band and introduce himself to me and say hi, and it was great. And over the years, it's not like he and I are best buds or anything, but from time to time we see each other, we hook up at a guitar workshop or something, and we've done some projects together, and it's kind of fun to think that started kind of because of the Gasworks, right? Now,
Wow.
here's a memory of it that I'll share with you. There was really no dressing room there. There was a
Okay.
closet. There was kind of a
Okay.
closet that was like where it had, stuff that you'd use to clean the bar, or stuff that you would use to, you know, uh, the whatever they had on tap or something. Maybe there was. I don't remember that specifically. If that's where the hoses came in, and where they. But it was small. It wasn't. It was a very small thing. So, but I never liked to be hanging out in the bar between sets. I
Yeah.
liked to go hide. I wanted a dressing room so that would have a place to go. So I would often be just standing or sitting in the one chair that was in this closet, hiding from the rest of the room. And you'd hear the bar, you'd hear, they'd be playing music between sets, and sitting in that closet. And it wasn't the only bar that was like that. The
Yeah.
Piccadilly Tube was like that. It was down the street. I had played Young Street Station with the band Act 3 that I was in before Triumph, and that was up the street a block or two. But there were all these bars all the way up and down that Young Street strip where
Yeah.
you could play. And I think if you went back another generation of mine to and most of these guys have passed away now, but like Ronnie Hawkins had the guys like Robbie Robertson playing, and they were up the street.
Hmm.
Up the street, there was like the Zanzibar or something, or the
Yeah.
Brass Rail, and these
Yeah.
were there were like strippers, and then there were bands, and they were closer up towards Bloor Street. But yeah, the Gasworks was kind of just south of is it Wellington, I think, but north of College. And
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and it was on the east side of the street, and it was sort of on a corner. so that if you were driving south down Young Street, you could see it coming from about a block and a half away, and of course, years later, Mike Myers in
Yes.
his movie, used the name of the bar as for a bar that in his oh God, what was the name of his character? Come on,
Uh,
you'll help me out here.
yeah, 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 yeah. Oh my goodness.
Wayne,
Wayne's World. That's right,
Wayne's
Wayne.
World. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so Wayne. So he they but he made it seem sort of like this fancy, it was a very Hollywood kind of version of the bar. The Gasworks was, granted, it was brick, and it had exposed, which has become a kind of a style now,
Yeah.
but it was like an industrial kind of looking inside, because the air conditioning vents and the uh, fire water hose thingies were hanging down. There was no ceiling really. It was just this weird, very ugly, and smelled like sort of beer, but also a little bit like urine. And you know, and of course, the big thing was stale cigarette smoke. So, like, because
Okay. No
smoking
ventilation.
was, every bar still had it.
Yeah.
So, like my amps, like an amp has tubes, and so it's hot. It runs. It warms up. So you'd have your amp in the bar for the week. You'd bring it home, and then if you were doing something like in your basement or uh, your bedroom, and you were using your amp and you turned it on, the smell of the bar, the smell of the smoke and the cigarette smoke and the beer and the piss, it would be coming off of your amp, right? And you'd be living with it in your bedroom going, oh yeah, geez. And so the Gasworks, for me, it was a lot of it, and my memory of it is the smell. The smell of the place was like, oh, this is a little bit grotty, like. But of course, the other thing that you're smelling, and I'm going to get poetic on you now, but
Yeah.
you're smelling hormones, because this
Okay.
is a place where you're kind of there and you're checking out females, and they're checking out guys. And it was more guys, because guys were there to hear the bands.
Yeah.
But you were also hoping that there might be some lady sitting at another table that, maybe you're going to buy her a pitcher of beer, or whatever. So yeah, I have fond memories. There's not too many other bands I remember seeing there. There was a band I think called Rose, which had a guy that some of those guys ended up being in the band Toronto,
Oh yeah.
and I think maybe I saw them there once. Um, I never played there. I was in a band called Justin Page. That was the first. He was a singer that was kind of like a David Bowie, Lou Reed, Alice Cooper kind of a character. And I, wore a costume and was in his backup band. And they had a recording deal with Capitol at the time.
Oh
But
wow.
in Toronto, we didn't play there. We played places like the Generator, which was way up at Yonge and
Hmm.
Eglinton, and then we played like in Etobicoke and stuff. We didn't really play downtown Toronto anywhere with that band, but yeah, the blues bands. They would, you could go on the Gasworks at any point in time. You might see a band like, I don't know, Shooter. The drummer in Justin Page ended up being the drummer in Shooter,
Okay.
and yeah, Dave Breckles. I think he
What?
became a real estate agent.
A lot of musicians tend to go that way. To real estate. Rick,
Well, sales, right? You're selling
maybe.
yourself on one level
Yes,
or another.
that
Yeah.
is true. Aren't we all? Whatever we do, I think
Yeah.
we're selling ourselves. Was there? I'm wondering if there's you talk about the when you think of the gas works, you think of the smells and the fumes, and that brings memories. I'm wondering if there was um, I don't know if there's a story, a funny story, sad story of playing in the gasworks, or maybe a first memory of of the band playing there? And because you guys played there a few times, I'm sure.
Yeah, we might have played there twice, maybe. I
Okay.
remember once, but then we sort of struck up a friendship with the guy Gary. I'm not going to remember his last name, who was the manager of the Piccadilly Tube, and it was down the street on the other side,
Was it the
closer to
Garys?
Dundas.
Was it one of the
And yeah,
Garys?
and that was the place we played more
Okay.
often. But
Yeah.
you're asking me for a specific memory. Back in those days, Triumph, we didn't play a lot of our own music. We were a cover band and we played Led Zeppelin stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
So we and the way I would uh describe it, and when we were in rehearsals, I would say there shouldn't be any dead air. We should do a medley of Led Zeppelin songs and it should last a half an hour. And if the solos are a little bit longer, it might last 40 minutes. But we go up, we no dead air because I hated dead air in bars because it would give some drunk a chance to be able to, you guys suck, or whatever. So it
Yeah.
was like, no, be like a steamroller when you get up there and just roll and no dead air. So that was our approach. And that's why my memory is of, being in the closet, coming out, being on the stage, playing the
Yeah.
set, and then back to the closet, and don't mingle with the people
Don't
in the seats.
don't give them a chance to tell us we
Yeah,
suck.
yeah. But yeah, let me see. Gasworks. Um, I think Larry Gowan tells a story, but I think he might be talking about the Piccadilly too. But it might have been the Gasworks. I don't know. He said when he was coming to the bar to check out the band, we had a tractor trailer truck that had our gear,
Okay. Okay.
and he said like they got enough gear to be able to play Maple Leaf Gardens, and they're playing here at the Gasworks. Like what is this? This is
Huh.
crazy. But he said it was like they were declaring themselves above the pack. That's how he described it. And I think
Interesting.
that was very true of Triumph, that what we were trying to do was, yeah, we were going to be playing the Gasworks, but we wanted to make it seem like, oh my God, these guys, it's like they should be in Maple Leaf Gardens. Like the
Yeah.
show that they've got, the gear that they've got, the way that the attitude that they have. And that was a big thing about Triumph. It was an attitude thing that we were
Yeah.
not going to be like a bar band. We were going to be like a concert act right from the get go. That was how we were going to make the sets happen. So I do think that the people that were like the manager of the guest, there was always a little bit of a pushback where we'd get up and we'd do our thing. And then people would say, what's happening here? This is not like,
Yeah.
why did you guys commandeer 4 tables that you use to put your PA stacks on? We need those tables and we went, do standing room at the bar. That's fine. You can fit more people in with standing room than you can if you have the tables. And they would
Yeah.
go, oh, you guys seem very sensible and reasonable. You're seeing our side of things. And we go, yes,
Yeah.
that's right. And there was another thing that, now this wasn't the Gasworks, it was Piccadilly too, but I remember this vividly. We used to do a thing at the end of the night where Mike Levine, the bass player, would do this rabble rousing thing. He'd get everybody clapping in unison, but then he would go, take your beer glasses and come on, bang them on the tables, let's go. And so there would be this bang, bang, bang of beer bottles and beer glasses on tables. Well, of course, the glasses would break, right? And so the manager of the club comes back to the closet at the end and says like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Like we got breakage all over the room. And this is bad. This is a horrible thing. And Levine says, buddy, how much does a box of glasses cost you? And the guy goes, I don't know, $12, $15. He goes, yeah. And he goes, if they break their glass, now they need to order another drink. How much, if half the bar, if even a quarter of the bar has to order new drinks, how much money do you make? And the guy went, yeah, yeah. Okay. Get him to bang the glasses.
Look at that. Businessmen, salesmen through and
Well,
through. I don't know, Rick, if you get out to watch any live music. Um, I've spoken to a number of people, for this project. Some people lament the loss of some of these iconic venues. Some people are saying that's okay. There's a bunch of other ones that are popping up and people are playing in different places. What are your thoughts on, places like Piccadilly Tube, places like the Gasworks, that aren't there anymore, places like that? Um,
Well, I'm not the kind of person that spends too much time sitting around and wallowing in regret
hmm,
because I find it counterproductive.
okay.
Like the past is regret, too much of the future is fear. I don't want to be in either of those places. I just want to be here, and I want to be figuring out how do I make here work.
Yeah,
And
I like that.
well, it's as old as Lao Tzu, but um, I would say that when there was that scene, part of
Yeah,
it was that you always have to sort of try and find, like, I'm a poet, so I'm looking for perspectives, right? And I think when you search for the perspective of that time, they'd lowered the drinking age to 18. And so there was this big sort of explosion of people going, right, I want to get 18 and 19-year-olds and people that have phony ID that are really 17 and 16. And I want to sell them beer.
yeah.
That's this is a business model where I can make money. So that became a big thing where that was what was going on. And Triumph happened to be a band that was around at that time, taking advantage. But also, I'll mention this just again, more perspective. Triumph would also do split weeks. So we would play in a bar from, say, a Monday to a Thursday. And then Friday and Saturday, we would go out and play high school. They were called dances, but it was like concerts in
Yeah.
gymnatoriums or auditoriums. And every high school had a budget to be able to get a band. Like they all had that kind of money. So,
Yeah.
like, and it would be, I don't know, $1,000, $1,500 a band could get paid for a one nighter in a high school, and you could do two of them in a week. So it was a very lucrative way to get a band off the ground if you could get into that market and make that happen. So high schools, and it was all about sort of baby boomers being a certain age, and this thing was happening. Now, demographically, you don't really have that anymore. Culturally, that doesn't exist. And in any
Hmm.
case, every kid can be sitting at home playing video games in their basement and doing gummies. And it's a different kind of a world
Yeah.
than it was then, because the idea of going to a bar, getting to see a band and having 5 or 6 beers, awesome. Like, what a great night out, you
Yeah.
know? Um, so culturally, that was kind of the way it worked.
All right.
And everybody
Interesting.
was into bands. But it was also the time of, you would go to the record store and you'd buy this vinyl thing and you'd take it home and you'd put it on the turntable. And oh man, like you'd listen to this whole, 18 to 20 minutes of music aside and flip it over. And so 40 minutes somebody would be giving to this. Nobody has that kind of attention span anymore. That's not the way this world works. So it only sort of resonates out. It only seems to make sense that, yeah, that's the idea of bars and people going to see stuff live. That's going to be in the demographic fragmenting of our culture.
Hmm.
That's only going to be a much smaller demographic slice now. It's never going to be everybody's. And this puts me in mind of something else. When I was, wow, let me think how old I would have been. I would have been 11 years old. February 9, 1964. The Beatles are on Ed Sullivan. Okay. And we have one television in the house that only gets about 5 or 6 channels. And Ed Sullivan is on, and the Beatles are on Ed Sullivan. And in the living room watching this, my mom, my dad, my 2 brothers, me, my grandmother, like 3
Wow.
generations are watching one TV. How often does that happen now in this world? Never. So
No.
the kind of world that gave us the Beatles, never mind gave us bars on the corner with a
Yeah.
band playing, the kind of world that gave us the Beatles, that's never going to happen ever again. Culture has been fragmented into
Yeah.
demographic slices so that the bar on the corner is going to be a tapas bar now, or it's going to be,
Yeah.
oh, these guys do finger foods from you know uh, Persia. There's a restaurant
Yeah.
locally here in Burlington where I live, and it's Persian food, and I'm thinking, wow, I think that's a fairly narrow demographic, but apparently this restaurant's doing very well, and I'm
Yeah.
going, man, I can't. In the neighborhood that I grew up in Toronto, you want to talk about, the bar culture. There were no bars in my neighborhood. I lived sort of, they call it High Park North now, but it wasn't called
Yeah.
it that then. It was north of Bloor Street between High Park and Dundas.
Okay.
And I think even as far over as into up to the junction and over and into what do they call that area now? Like Runnymede and Bloor and Jane and Bloor. What's that? Do you know the
I
name of
don't know
that
the name of that
neighborhood?
neighborhood. No.
Okay.
New
Well, in
Toronto?
any case,
Maybe.
sorry?
Maybe it's called New Toronto. I'm trying to, or
No,
Mimico.
no, New Toronto's south, down by
Okay.
down by the lakeshore. No, I can't remember the name of that. Anyhow, it was dry.
Wow.
There were no liquor licenses in any establishments
Yeah.
in that neighborhood, all the way over to Jane Street. If you wanted to get a glass of wine with a thing, you had to go to a restaurant that was the west of Jane Street on Bloor, because all along Bloor it was dry. There were no bars. There were no liquor licenses. None.
Interesting.
You had to go. There was a place south of Bloor and Dundas where Roncesvalles comes up and meets, and there was a place there called the Rondon, and it was considered, a dive, a place for ne'er do wells to hang out, and but that was outside the area. But once you got north of Bloor, nothing, no bars, no nothing. So, but I think that was also one of the reasons why uh, kids, and when I say kids, I mean 16 to 20-year-old people. You'd
Yeah.
get on the subway, you'd go downtown because you could go to a bar.
Yeah.
That's why the Gasworks and Piccadilly Tube and all those places did well, because kids from, it wasn't suburban, but it wasn't downtown, but
Yeah.
it was like kids from my neighborhood and then Etobicoke, so they'd migrate downtown in order to have a night out. Okay,
Wow.
I'm done. Ugh.
Rick, I feel smarter right now than I did at the beginning of the week. So I thank you. I thank you for that. Usually on Friday I'm running on fumes. So thank
Great.
thank you for that.
You're
And Rick,
welcome.
as go ahead.
No, I'm done.
Okay. Well, listen, thank you for the time. His new book, Leaning into It with the S and the H removed. Another book of poetry from Rik Emmett, published by our friends at ECW Press. I think you can get it now.
Yes, it's
Uh,
advanced copies at ecwpress.com.
yeah,
And the book will actually sort of be in stores in April,
in
right when
April.
I'm going out on tour.
With which band?
Yeah.
With Triumph.
Yeah. Triumph Mach 2. The rock and roll machine reloaded, as they say.
And yeah, people want to get the book, go to ecwpress.com for more information there, and check out Rik Emmett with Triumph later this spring and summer at a locale near you.
Yeah.
Rick,
All
thank you
right,
so much.
Kareem, thank you.
We'll
Nice
chat
talking
soon
to you.
again. Take
Okay,
care.
man. Bye bye now.
Bye.